Last week, I spent $1,700 on a MacBook Pro. The funny thing is, I already owned a MacBook. It wasn't broken, it wasn't slow, it wasn't even old. So why did I convince myself that I needed another one? The answer has a lot less to do with Apple and a lot more to do with how consumerism works. Today, I wanted to have a candid discussion about consumer spending and how companies attempt to redefine what a need looks like. Now, I'll be brutally honest, guys. At times, you could definitely describe me as a degenerate spender. I own a disgusting amount of hard assets. In fact, I have very little liquid cash compared to the amount of physical things that I own. I bought a PS5 Pro for $500 on Facebook just to play GTA 6 on release day. And look, I know that everyone's gonna make fun of me, but I'm also probably gonna buy the most expensive version of that game. I'm sorry. And to be honest, guys, I don't even think I have a spending problem. I think I have a FOMO problem. Now, what do I mean by this? I love hunting for great deals. I constantly scour the internet for offers, and when I find something that's too good to pass up, I throw all caution to the wind and immediately buy it. If I know that I'm about to save a lot of money, I will gladly pay up now to ensure that I future proof something. And the worst part about it is that I can usually justify it to myself. I'll tell myself, well, if I don't buy it now, I'll probably never find another deal like this, or I'll probably just end up buying it eventually anyway, so I might as well just save the money now. And before I know it, I've convinced myself that buying something is actually the financially responsible decision. And with technology, guys, this is especially dangerous because there's always something new around the corner. Every year there's a faster processor, a brighter display, a better camera, or another feature that promises to change everything. And if you're someone like me who genuinely enjoys tech, it's incredibly easy to convince yourself that upgrading now is somehow an investment in your productivity, when in reality, you're just buying another shiny object. I guess the real question is, why do we do this? The concept of consumer goods isn't something that evolution planted into our brains. In fact, the whole idea of walking into a store and exchanging pieces of paper or tapping a credit card for objects is an incredibly new thing when you think about it. For the overwhelming majority of human history, we weren't deciding between an M5 MacBook Pro and an M4 MacBook Air. We worried about finding food, staying warm, and surviving until tomorrow. So why is it that when I see a deal that's too good to pass up, no matter what it is, I feel this attraction to it from within every fiber of my being? Why does my brain light up over a discounted laptop or a cheap PS5 when logically I know I don't actually need it? Is the dopamine rush you get from buying something really powerful enough to override billions of years of evolution? Now, of course, I still attempt to be financially responsible. I make sure that I keep a small cushion of money, and now that I have this new computer, I will probably sell my old one to recuperate some of the cost of this new one. But there is still this guilt that hangs over me for buying something that I knew I truly didn't need. And I'm sure there's plenty of you guys listening to this video who are just like me. And I think that's where a lot of modern consumers find themselves today. We are biologically wired to seek out rewards, collect resources, and look for opportunities. The problem is that now we live in a world where those instincts are being targeted by companies that have spent decades learning how to trigger them. Thousands of years ago, finding something valuable meant survival. Today, finding a limited time deal can trigger that same feeling of urgency, even when the thing we're buying has nothing to do with our survival. So, I guess the real question is, how does one overcome these feelings? My coworker gave me an extremely powerful piece of advice when it came to managing his own spending habits. He told me that anything he buys, he'll deliberate on it for about 3 days or so, and if the hype is still there after about 3 days, he just decides to buy it because he realizes he's probably committed to the idea. If the feeling of excitement disappears for him the next day or the day afterwards, he instead just chooses to save his money and just waits for a different opportunity. And I thought about whether I had ever given myself a rule like that, and I realized that I think I'm just impulsive. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that impulse really isn't about money at all, guys. It's about emotion. We like to think that we're rational consumers who carefully weigh every purchase, but most of the time, we've already made that decision emotionally. The logical part of our brain just shows up afterwards to justify what we just bought. And we tell ourselves, hey, we're saving money because it's on sale. We tell ourselves we're investing in productivity because it's faster. We tell ourselves, hey, we're future proofing. And maybe sometimes those things are true, but I think that they're often just stories that we tell ourselves to feel better about decisions that we already made. And I don't think I'm alone in that. I think every single one of us has bought something we didn't really need because for a brief moment, we believed it'd make our lives just a little bit better. And sometimes it does, but most of the time, what we're just buying is a feeling. The excitement of something new, the anticipation of waiting for it to arrive, the satisfaction of opening the box. But those feelings don't last forever, they fade. And before long, we're looking for that next thing that makes us feel that way again. But here's the really interesting thing that I think about. My MacBook wasn't really competing against another MacBook. It was competing against my own contentment. As long as what I felt like I had wasn't enough, the new one always had an advantage. And at the end of the day, I don't think buying things is inherently bad. I love technology. I love guitars. I love cars. I love collecting things. And these are things that bring me genuine enjoyment. And I don't think there's anything wrong with spending money on things that make your life better. The problem is that when we stop asking ourselves why we are buying something, are we buying it because it genuinely adds value to our lives? Or are we buying it because we're chasing a feeling that'll disappear in a few days? Because the reality is that there's always going to be something better. There's always going to be a better computer, a better phone, a better car, a better version of whatever you already own. And if you always chase the next thing, will you actually ever enjoy anything that you have? And that's something that I need to remind myself of constantly. Did I need this new MacBook Pro that I'm writing the script on? No. Do I enjoy using it? Absolutely. And to be honest, I think that there's a difference between those two things. The goal isn't ever to not spend money. The goal is to spend it intentionally. Buy things you love, buy things that improve your life, but don't let these companies convince you that the thing standing between you and happiness is the latest product release.